Welcome, friends, to this Wednesday evening Dhamma discussion and meditation. So this week we're going to continue our discussion or review of the 5 spiritual faculties. And last week we started with the faculty of faith. Now, I hope all of you were able to reread that article that I sent out on the attachment. How come it's not showing?
Sure. It's right there. 15. Sure.
Okay. So last week we went over already the faith. So we want to continue on with the how many of you read I'm not going to go over that myself because I read it, but I trusted every one of you would have reread that. How do I get back to my...
Stop share. Stop share.
So as I mentioned last week, the faculty of faith has 3 parts to it: the initial faith, then the enduring faith, and then unshakable faith. And that has the faith in the idea that purifying the mind is possible. There is such a thing as liberation of the mind, and basically having faith in the Dhamma. And of course, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, the traditional definition. And so the first level of faith, is sort of excited faith. You get excited, something new, and let me practice, and so you start practicing. But you have to have energy. So the second faculty is that of energy or perseverance. But basically, it means the right efforts, but the effort to practice. And you practicing basically the Four Noble, the Noble Eightfold Path. And so the development of wisdom, the first part of the Eightfold Path, is right understanding. So the effort to develop right understanding by reading more, by hearing more Dhamma, and then also by meditating. So that's the energy that you have to put in, and the energy to practice the precepts and the other aspects of the Eightfold Path. It's not just energy to meditate, but it's also to develop the other aspects of the Eightfold Path. And because without that, then you won't reach go beyond to the second level of wisdom, or the reflective wisdom, which means the insights that you get from thinking and contemplating the Dhamma. It goes from just mere sort of initial faith to a deeper experiential understanding that the Dhamma does work. So basically the effort to practice. And then what do you practice? Then the next 3 aspects of the spiritual faculties are mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. So again, this wisdom refers to the 3 levels of wisdom: the Suttamaya Panya, Chintamaya Panya, and the Bhavanamaya Panya. So it's not just practicing meditation, but it's also gaining an intellectual understanding of the Dhamma, which helps you to keep the mind focused. So the mindfulness then comes, you practice to be mindful, especially in practicing the precepts. You have to be mindful of our negative intentions, the intention to, kill something, to tell a lie, steal, or break any of the other precepts. You have to be mindful of your thoughts, and you have to be mindful of your bodily actions as well. So it means basically practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Learning how to gradually live more in the present moment, and so much not being reacting off your base impulses and obsessions. Learning how to be more inwardly centered so that you can observe your mind and thoughts, and you can observe the urges to do things, and being able to then consider, is this something I really need to do or not? So that's the practice of the right effort. And so in order to practice right effort, you have to have mindfulness. So there's the faculty of faith, and then the energy to practice, and then you're actually practicing mindfulness. And as you practice mindfulness, you get concentrated. Now, there's a lot of, differences of opinion, talk about concentration versus mindfulness. But the Buddha never talked about concentration without being mindful. Mindfulness precedes all of the various lists of mental qualities before concentration. So you gain concentration through practicing mindfulness. And concentration means being centered in the present moment and using the body, the breathing, the body, the 4 foundations of mindfulness to develop that concentration. Now, also concentration means being focused on the practice, not so much just, trying to hold your attention at the tip of the nose or some object of concentration, but it means having your whole mind sort of focused in the practice of Dhamma, not being easily distracted. Like if you're going to meditate on Friday night and a friend comes over and says, oh, come on, there's a great party or something like that. And, if you don't have that focus, you might say, oh, yeah, let me go out and go to a party or something. I mean, that's just one example. So the mindfulness leads to the concentration, and concentration means not being distracted. That's the more practical way to see the idea of concentration, rather than this idea of being absorbed in one object and, becoming oblivious to other things. Now, that may be a state of concentration, but it's not the kind that we use in the practice of mindfulness meditation, especially. But anyway, in the beginning, that concentration means being focused in the practice and not being distracted by meaningless pursuits and so on. But it also does mean, yes, gaining the jhanas. Now, there was one question that was sent in to me by email concerning this, and in that article from the book on the spiritual faculties, it mentioned about the meditative absorptions. And the person had a question, what are those meditative absorptions? In that section on concentration, basically it means the jhanic states. So attaining the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and fourth jhana is the meaning of those, the traditional meaning of developing the right concentration. But also the jhana is also sometimes misunderstood, or only a one-sided definition of being absorbed in one object. But it means the suppression of the 5 hindrances, in the mind being concentrated in the present moment. So that's called momentary concentration. So in the practice of mindfulness, And in the spiritual faculties, the practice of the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the enlightenment factors, that's what we're trying to develop, is the momentary concentration. That means the mind that's concentrated in the present moment, it's resting in the present moment, and aware of each sense stimulus or object that is coming through our senses. The mind isn't moving. Things are coming and going through present moment awareness. That's a concentrated state, especially in the practice of the mindfulness and in the development of the wisdom. Anyway, so the faith, energy, mindfulness, the concentration. But more importantly than the actual concentration in the meditation is being in your daily life, being concentrated and focused on the practice, not being easily swayed and distracted by what other people are thinking or doing, and so on. And then the wisdom. So now in developing wisdom, that does refer to the deeper aspects of the concentrated awareness. Actually, when I use the term, talk about concentration, I rather use the term concentrated awareness. That means the awareness is concentrated in the present moment, or concentrated within the body, within the 4 foundations of mindfulness. That is the focus of the concentration. And the wisdom refers to the deeper insights that arise through as you gain more and more concentration. Concentration, basically, as I've mentioned many times, it's like a microscope and turning up the power of the microscope. So let's say when you first start meditation, it'd be like looking through a microscope only on the power of 5, for example, because you have hindrances, so the mind is not steady. But as you gain the ability, as your mindfulness improves and you're able to be letting go of the hindrances by recognizing when you're getting sleepy much quicker, recognizing when the mind is wandering much quicker, knowing when you're getting upset by pain much quicker so that you can apply the appropriate antidotes to overcome those hindrances and to remain steady on the course. So, so as the mind gets more and more undistracted, then you're turning up the power of that concentration to see more details. The mind becomes more clear and you see more details. So that is the meditative wisdom. The ability to see subtler and subtler movements of your mind and to be able to see the connections between greed, grasping, becoming, and the various aspects that you read within the Dhamma, that those all become clear. Even the 4 Noble Truths become clear. And all the connections between the Eightfold Path also become clear. So that is the deepening of wisdom. Until it finally accumulates in the entering the stream and realizing the 4 stages of liberation, and especially the entering the stream where you overcome the doubts. So, and the whole time that you're developing the energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, your faith is gradually getting deeper and deeper because you're seeing the results of the practice. And you see the weakening of your negative states and the more ability to stay more relaxed and grounded in the Dhamma, and your daily practice is becoming more and more steady. That's the way we know when we are making some progress in the Dhamma. or there's one little saying, less drama and more Dhamma. So when there's less drama in your life, then that means there's probably more Dhamma in the life, because a mind that's not grounded in the Dhamma is always, becoming more dramatic. And getting all excited over various things and making mountains out of molehills and issues out of where there's not really much issues, and so on. Anyway, so those basically are the spiritual faculties. And they're listed in that order because they follow a kind of a gradual order. Without faith, you're not going to have the energy to practice Dhamma, because it takes a lot of energy, even to practice Sila, for example, or to get up earlier in the morning to practice meditation. And so if you don't have faith in the practice, you're not going to give the effort to do it. And then the effort is to practice mindfulness and concentration and to develop the wisdom. Now, apart from these 5 faculties, for those who are familiar with the 37 factors of enlightenment, which is a list of different aspects of the Dhamma, like the 4 Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, 4 Foundations of Mindfulness, 7 factors of enlightenment, the 5 spiritual faculties, and there's something called the 5 spiritual powers. And this is where sometimes people, and the 5 spiritual faculties and the 5 spiritual powers are basically the same qualities. The faculty of faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And then in the other group, it's called the 5 spiritual powers, but it's also faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And they're repeated twice. Now, there must be a reason for that, because the Buddha didn't waste his energy or words on, things that didn't have a meaning. So I just want to, kind of try to clarify at that point. So the reason why they're called 5 spiritual faculties, because they put us on the right track. So when you're beginning, you're trying to practice, you're trying to gain faith, and then, being able to generate the effort to practice. So it requires a lot of, sort of energy to do that. And faith and energy. Otherwise, you're not going to put out, the effort to change, basically. So, but it's similar to a person who's studying in a university. You have faculty members, right? So they have faculty members who guide you on, let's say, your PhD research. And that means they're trying to get you on the right track. You have a subject, and then the faculty member will make some advice on that subject, whether it's going to be useful or not, or they'll advise you on, how to proceed with that. So these faculties are helping us to gain faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And they're weak in the beginning. So it takes a lot of practice to strengthen those faculties. But then when one comes to a certain point, those faculties then become spiritual powers. They're developed to the point where they actually start working by themselves, and they don't require a lot of effort to practice them. And that sort of dividing line, or when the faculties then becomes powers, is at the state of stream entry, when one's doubts have been totally overcome, and one is said to be standing on the Eightfold Path at that point. So in the 5 spiritual powers, that faith becomes unshakable. You've reached the 3rd level of faith, which is the unshakable faith, that even a Jehovah's Witness or somebody else could not deter you or change your opinion about the Dhamma. And then your energy would have already been established. Energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom are developed to the point where all you have to do is just keep improving them, but it's no longer a struggle to maintain them. So it becomes a power. They now have their own power that are helping you continue on the path. So, but I hope that you can reread that article if you haven't already, and especially that section on the questions of King Milinda and the Arhat Nagasena when he was having that dialogue with Arhat Milinda, or the King Milinda, excuse me, about the 5 faculties. It's very interesting the way that the Arhat Nagasena was answering the king's questions. So now, if anybody has any questions on that, then we can look at those. Is that the first one?
Yeah, it's just.
So it says on page 2 of the handout you sent that the 37 factors of enlightenment are referenced. Yes, that's what I was referring to. So the 5 faculties and the 5 spiritual powers, those 5 faculties are 10 out of those 37 factors of enlightenment. They comprise 10 of those. And the other ones, as I mentioned, are the Noble Eightfold Path is 8, the 7 factors of enlightenment are 7, the 4 right efforts. Maybe somebody else can help me out. I don't have, I'll memorize. But anyway, they're
the 4 powers and the 4 foundations of mindfulness.
Yeah, the 4 foundations of mindfulness.
The 4 powers.
The 4 powers, or the 4 spiritual powers, are the Iddhipada. But really, if you examine those powers, the faculties of energy, mindfulness, and concentration are repeated the most. So just those 3, if you were to divide them into separate things, those 3, energy, mindfulness, and concentration, are found within most of those lists. So they're repeated so often. So that should give a person an idea that, what the Buddha emphasized in the practice of Dhamma. Everything else is for developing mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And you could say that developing wisdom, everything is about developing wisdom, because wisdom comes at the very end. Wisdom is the result of doing all of the above. So that's the way that one should, try to see how all these things fit together. So somebody is just is putting some of the dialogue between the Arhat, Nagasena, and Milinda up there, but I encourage all of you to go and reread that whole that article that I put in there. That's from my recent book that has been republished that I mentioned before.
Bhante, I have a question about the factors of enlightenment. So the 37 factors of enlightenment, are they briefed up into 7 factors of enlightenment?
The 7 factors of enlightenment are one of the groups that make up the 37 factors of enlightenment.
I see.
It can sound a little bit confusing, but once you kind of study it a little bit and then you read the qualities of those different groups we've mentioned, then you will gradually, it will become more clear.
Mm-hmm. Would you mind repeating, Bhante, the 7 factors of enlightenment for us? Just briefly.
Testing my memory.
No, I'm not.
Well, the first one is mindfulness.
Uh-huh.
Probably we'll talk later on, take that as a topic for one of our discussions again. But basically, it's mindfulness and then investigation. Now, this refers to the actual practice of Satipatthana and the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and especially the Vipassana meditation when you're starting to practice Dhamma, Dhammanupassana. But so it's mindfulness and investigation of Dhamma. Then energy, again, energy is one of them. And then joy, because you get joy out of investigation. That investigation means you're gaining insights into subtler aspects of the mind and the mental process. You're getting deeper insights into really what the 4 Noble Truths mean and so on. So it gives you a lot of joy. Because before you might have had a lot of confusion about, now it's starting to get more clear in the mind. So you get a joy comes up because of that. And because of that, your body and mind becomes more tranquilized. And because of that tranquilization, you develop concentration. That means you reach a state of jhana, the first jhana, by practicing the mindfulness. This is what I mentioned before. You gain concentration by practicing mindfulness. You don't have to practice concentration as a separate practice. You gain it through developing this momentary concentration, and that will lead to gaining that level of jhanic awareness, or the same degree of concentration. The hindrances become overcome. And then because of that, you attain equanimity. And equanimity comes through the 3rd and the 4th stage of the jhana. So that's why you're gaining this equanimity even while practicing the vipassana. And that's why there's a phrase in the Dhamma where the Buddha mentioned there's 2 ways to attain enlightenment. One is samadhi pubbangama vipassana, meaning one develops concentration before developing wisdom, and the wisdom comes out of that concentration. Or the other is vipassana pubbangama samadhi, which you start practicing mindfulness, is really the method that the 7 factors of enlightenment are following, the vipassana pubbangama samadhi approach, where you're practicing mindfulness from the beginning, which includes concentration. People think that mindfulness is not concentration. That's not true. But this idea of a one-pointed absorbed concentration, what leads people off on a wrong track. But anyway, so the vipassana pubbangama samadhi means by practicing vipassana, developing that wisdom, you're gaining this samadhi on those 6th and 7th levels of the 7 factors.
Bhante, the samadhi which is the last limb of the 8 limbs of yoga, and the samadhi in Buddhism, is it the same thing?
Yes and no. And there's differences of opinion on that. And of course, yogic scholars would probably highly debate the Buddhists in their definition of samadhi. But in yoga, samadhi or maha samadhi is considered to be the enlightenment. But the Buddha never used the term samadhi to describe enlightenment. It's a means to reaching enlightenment, but it's not enlightenment itself. But anyway, I don't want to get into those discussions right now. But the difference is the Buddha defined right concentration as the first four jhanas. But the samadhi that yogis were developing were the formless jhanas, going into the jhana of infinite consciousness. And then they were equating that with being Brahma, or being the liberation of the mind. But the Buddha discovered that that's not the deepest level of liberation. So I think the confusion comes there. Is that the yogis were using the formless jhanas, which are all called samadhi. They're also called samadhi, but the Buddha used the right concentration up to the fourth jhana only in the definition of right concentration of the Noble Eightfold Path. But anyway, again, different teachers will, debate and argue different points about it, but, Okay?
Yeah, Bhante. I feel basically it's the same thing when you're looking at yogic samadhi or Buddhist samadhi. The state of mind is more or less the same.
Well, that's why the Buddha taught Buddhism and not the yogic system, because he went by it. He went into the no self and so on. But anyway, I don't want to get into that argument now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have developed the Dhamma if he didn't figure that there was some difference in that.
Yeah, okay.
Or at least the way the ascetics were practicing meditation at the time of the Buddha. Because that's why he left his first two teachers. They had attained these states of formless jhana, the realm of infinite space and the realm of nothingness. And the Buddha attained those states, perfected them, and he asked those teachers, is this all you got? And they said, well, yeah. And the Buddha came out of those states and realized he hadn't really changed much. And so that's why he went off in search of enlightenment on his own and developed his own system of going beyond the formless jhanas to reach the nibbana. Anyway. So friends, any last questions on any of that? Okay, so now let's take a little few minutes break and come back, and then we'll do some yogic breathing and stretches, and then sit down to try to develop some faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom.
Thanks, Bhante.
Okay. In the sitting posture, try to align the back, the spine, and the back of the head in a straight line. Gently close your eyes. Just feel the eyes in the socket. Feel the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. And feel your face. Relax the face muscles. Feel the sensations on your face. Skin stretched over the skull. We're going to move our attention slowly down to the body, just feeling the different places of the body, the sensations, developing concentration in the body, in mindfulness. Now just move the attention down to feel the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the shoulders. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Feel the clothing touching the arms. Just feel the chest area, where the clothing touches the skin of the chest. Take a deep, slow breath to feel that expansion of the chest, those sensations. Now feel your hands and fingers where they touch together, where they touch your legs. Try to feel the subtle pulsations in your hands and fingers. And feel the inward curve of the lower spine, the lumbar vertebrae, the natural inward curve that supports the weight of the upper body. And feel the buttocks pressing the seat. Feel the weight of the body pressing the seat. Feel the sensations of the contact or pressure in the buttock. And just mentally remind yourself of sitting, the present moment of the body. Now let the awareness move down your legs to feel the knees, how the knees are bent, and the lower legs tucked underneath. Just feel your feet and toes. Feel where the socks touch the skin of the feet. And just remind yourself of sitting. Now let the awareness kind of move back up through the body to again rest on the eyes. From that point down the eyes, just try to feel that outline of the body, the sitting body. The general sense of the head on top, the arms at the sides, clothing touching the skin, buttocks and feet pressing the floor. That kind of silhouette, outline of the body. Try to hold that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Just remember sitting, sitting, sitting. Then begin some deep, slow breathing again, like we did in the yoga. Take 3 or 4 seconds to slowly breathe in, expanding the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest, holding the air in the lungs 2 to 3 seconds, and feeling the long contracting out breath, the last bit of air going out of the lung. Just take a few more deep, slow breaths like that, cultivating this basic mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Feel the last bit of air go out. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. And we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10 to try to develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. Try to continue to take some deeper breaths if you can. On the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the breath in 1 or 2 seconds. With the out breath, also count to 1. Feeling the last bit of air go out. Next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5. Out 5. in 6, out 6, in 7, out 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10. Now just continue the counting. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled, short, irregular rhythm. Continue to feel it. Continue to follow the expanding and contracting movements. Momentary concentration. Knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it. You feel the sensations of the clothing rubbing against the skin, the stomach, rib cage, and chest. It expands and contracts. Keep the mindfulness alert, moment by moment. Try to tune into the 4 phases of each breath cycle. Expanding in breath, in the brief pause. Contracting out breath, in the brief pause. Just over and over and over and over again. Developing concentrated awareness, concentrated mindfulness. To help stay focused, you can use these brief reminders of in, sitting, out, sitting. Continuous connection to the present moment of this body, here and now. Sitting, breathing body. You keep that outline of the body in the mind's eye. That breathing going on in the center. In, sitting. Out, out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. At the same time, be alert for thoughts trying to sneak in and steal your attention away. The mind gets carried away and thoughts recognize it as thinking. Gently let go of the thoughts. Take a deep, slow breath. Bring the mind back into the body. Back to in, sitting. Out, out, sitting. If you still have too many thoughts, you can try counting the breaths again from 1 to 10 by yourself. See if you can make it 10 breaths without the mind getting lost. The mind does get lost in between. Start again the counting at 1. It helps to concentrate. You can take slightly deeper breaths to help feel it. especially with each out breath. Feel the body and mind relaxing more and more into the present moment. From time to time, taking a few deep, slow breaths to keep the mind awake, alert in the breathing body. Try to notice more and subtler detail, sensation in the breathing body. Subtler thoughts as they're moving to the back of the mind. Mind and body is relaxed, calm enough, opening up to the flow of impermanence. Breathing is always there in the center, around it. Notice other sensations coming and going, itchy sensations, aches or pain, clothing touching the skin in the background. Cultivating mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Concentrations, limiting the attention to the body, the outline of the body in the mind's eye. Mindfulness is noticing the flow of impermanence, the changing sensations within that body, or even thoughts moving through the mind. The wisdom is understanding all these things are impermanent. It's going on by themselves. Anytime the mind loses its focus, take a few more deep, slow breaths. Stay grounded, awake in the body. Breath by breath, moment by moment. Being alert for any urges or wantings of the mind. With each out breath, just keep relaxing the body, relaxing the mind to the flow of moment to moment awareness. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. So many different sensations coming and going. Pleasure and pain come and go. Sounds come and go. Perceptions, thoughts, emotions come and go. Thoughts of I, me, or mine come and go. These are all just a continuous flow of five aggregates, their nature of impermanence. Just underneath all of that coming and going pain or mental chaos is the parallel dimension of the now, present moment awareness. Let's try to get a sense of that. This breathing body is the natural connection to that present moment awareness. If the mind has good awareness and detachment, let's try to feel this breathing body as being an empty house with nobody home to answer the call, knocking on the doors and windows. There's a sensitive microphone in the house, which is awareness that knows but doesn't know. concentrated present moment awareness. Silent witness. What thoughts or perceptions arise based on that sound vibration? Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atane bindati dukkhi Esamagno visuddhya dukkhapatta ca nidukkhamuttaya sukha bhayapatta cha nibbaya sokapatta cha nisukha hontu sabbe pipanino. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to last briefly and then vanish. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to freedom. And may the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. And thus spoke the Buddha. You mindfully place your hands at the edge of the knees. Take a deep, slow breath, stretching the head back, pulling the hands on the knees to arch your spine. And lift the head up, level. Out breath, press the chin to the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the chin up, level, in breath. Relax on the out breath. Now to finish this meditation, I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly. Do that chanting on a long out breath. Feel those vibrations in the body and the mind. Take a deep breath. Okay, friends, I hope that you're all able to have at least a few moments or minutes of some good awareness, gradually understanding what those qualities of mindfulness, concentration, wisdom are. So try to keep up your meditation during the week, and also especially the M&Ms, the minutes of mindfulness throughout the day, mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. So be well, safe, mindful, and wise.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Great
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank you, Bhante.
Hi, Sarah.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
Bhante.
everyone.
Protect us from.
Thank you, Bhante.